Once upon a time, a TV ad was all about making a one-off splash.
If we treat the budgie smuggler with respect, undies, togs, everyone wins.
But now, with so many social media channels, there's an insatiable desire for quick content.
Brands need huge amounts of creative, and when we say that, they need in the thousands of pieces of creative.
And one New Zealand company is doing just that.
TikTok creative, taken to a whole new level with Shuttle Rock.
Led by Jonny Hendriksen from a global headquarters that started and stayed in regional New Zealand.
There's a wonderful sign on our door when we ring 123 High Street, Shuttle Rock sort of take off.
Yeah.
It had Rangiora, Los Angeles, Tokyo.
Welcome to the NBR podcast. I'm your host, Simon Shepherd. Growing up a few decades ago, it was all about the one TV ad that cut through, like Toyota.
Bugger.
But when once there was one ad and few ways to reach the audience, now there are many. Supplying all that creative, those short-form videos that pop up on your feeds, is a huge market. In 2024, the global digital ad market is calculated at $740 billion US. And that's the opportunity Kiwi company Shuttle Rock has been chasing for 13 years, based out of Nelson. Shuttle Rock's been around since about 2011, about 13 years, isn't that right?
Correct. Yes, correct.
Yeah. Do you think many Kiwis actually heard of your company? Shuttle Rock's co-founder and CEO, Jonny Hendriksen.
No, we're not actually all that well known in Nelson either. So it's very, very little of our revenue actually comes from New Zealand. But we literally have been global from day one. We started in 123 High Street in Rangiora, and then moved up to Nelson. And there's a wonderful sign on our door when we ring 123 High Street, Shuttle Rock sort of take off.
Yeah.
It had Rangiora, Los Angeles, Tokyo, and I've still got that photo. I think we must have been. I think we were above the wool shop or something in the main street of Rangiora with Tokyo and Los Angeles or something. Yeah, so.
Well, let's just get into that regionality, that idea of basing it in a region. Does it have to be a tech company for a Kiwi company to be successfully based in a region, but with a global focus?
Well, I think, look, we've had a lot of tailwinds, I guess, over the last, few years. And I guess in some ways COVID was sort of timely in a sense that it was sort of this sort of work from home. People were sort of moving out of the cities to the regions, and that was a globally, and I remember, in the middle of COVID where our biggest competitor was in New York. And I remember talking to the CEO of one of our competitors, and he was lamenting how, here he was in the middle of Manhattan and he wasn't allowed to go 2 blocks to go and talk to his customers. So it sort of made me realize that it just completely evened the playing field, because I could talk to that customer 2 blocks from him as easily as he could talk to them, because it was all via Zoom and so forth. So I think we always knew as a company, really over the last over the last decade, even pre-COVID, that as a tech company you can be literally anywhere. And I think if your aspirations are to build a big company, unless you are, from New Zealand, well, you've got 2 ways of doing it. One, you can be the big player here in New Zealand, like a lot of the bigger New Zealand companies, or you can decide that really the world is your oyster, and actually, and then at that point, it doesn't really matter where you position yourself. And I guess too, just to add to that, I think we've been very lucky over the last few years with all of this digital communication with the likes of Slack and Zoom and video conference. All of this has just become so much that the barriers to be able to run a global business have just become. It's just even the playing field of what becomes.
And just for people who don't, as I said, not many Kiwis actually know what you do. So as I understand it, to get this out of the way, you've disrupted the ad agency model with quick turnaround creative content for businesses, and you do that as a monthly subscription. Is that a good description?
Yeah, we've sort of evolved a little bit from there, but it's we build creative primarily for very large enterprise businesses, and really the challenge with modern media is that in traditional media we didn't really need a lot of creative. So, for TV commercials, for example, a very big brand could produce 4 big TV commercials out of a year. And really, you could have an unlimited media spend on the back of that. The big challenge really is across this very complex digital landscape of Meta and TikTok and Snap and all of to actually go and really commit to a very large ad spend. Brands need huge amounts of creative, and when we say that, they need in the thousands of pieces of creative. So the paradigm shift that's really happened is the old days, traditionally you'd have 100 people working on one piece of creative, which might have been the TV commercial. Now you need one person needs to be able to create 1,000 pieces of creative. The content that we make is for TikTok and for Meta platforms like Instagram Reels and so forth. A lot of these are 7, 10, 15-second videos. Often they'll only last for 2 weeks. So they're very, what we call sort of almost snackable creative. So brands need to talk to a lot of different audiences with a lot of different targeting. And really the creative is very, very important in engaging with these different demographics across all of these different platforms. And, we'll have an advertiser that might be, they need 120 different placements that need to be refreshed every 10 days in 13 languages. So all of a sudden, the one TV commercial turns into, I need 13,000 pieces of creative for the next 3 months. And that problem is not so much disrupting the creative agency model. It's almost really a whole new creative ecosystem we're building.
It sounds like an insatiable beast for content, really.
Yeah, it's and look, I mean, we're just looking to close a new customer next week. I can't say who, but they need about 9,800, 10,000 pieces of content a month.
Wow.
And that's across a lot of different demographics across the world, and it's a household name, and so every sort of month that goes by, to be honest, I'm surprised. Or just the sheer volume of creative that's needed and the complexities, because now we need UGC, user-generated content, and it needs to be, generative AI, and it needs to have, sound bites, it needs to have music, and it needs to be animated, it needs to be, Instagram Reels is very different than TikTok. So it's just immensely complex space, and that's where we're sort of, as a company, we're taking that on. Yeah.
Okay. Where I want to understand how big you are, if I can. I mean, you describe yourself as a global leader in digital content production. In 2021, you told the NBR that you were sort of targeting $100 million in turnover. Where are you at now?
We're not quite there yet. As we've sort of pivoted there, but we're certainly getting up towards. We're growing at a great rate of knots. We're not disclosing our revenue amount, but we're certainly well on the way there.
Oh, we've got to ask: are you making money yet?
Yes, we are. Yeah.
Well, that's good. You talk about your competitors. Who are your competitors in this space? I mean, if you're a global company based out of Nelson, who are the competitors?
So there are a lot of competitors in the sort of mid-market or smaller company space. But as we've sort of gone in towards the enterprise to the larger brands, we're seeing less and less competitors. The main reason for that is a lot of the very big brands actually have their own in-house production team. So what we're actually finding is we're actually now working with the larger brands to actually help them scale content. So we're in a pretty unique position where we're able to actually, really grow in a space that we're not seeing a lot of competition as yet.
And it seems that you are in expansion mode as well. You've just announced the acquisition of I believe it was originally a South Korean company, Shaker. Is that the right way to pronounce it? Why did you do that? What gap in your product offering does Shaker fill?
So Shaker, they've been around for about 13 years, and they're a deep tech company, amazing technology that they've built over the years, and really that's going to now enable us to do mass personalization of advertising. So what it really will enable us to do is right down to zip code targeted ads for, say, quick service restaurants, being able to sort of target and bring in data feeds and so we'll be able to build like video ads around change out menu items according to temperature of the day. So if it's over 30 degrees temperature in a certain zip code location, let's bring in chocolate sundaes and slushies and so forth. And then let's, if it's in a certain area of the country, let's bring in this, sort of imagery, and we can get really hyper personalization. So that they have the ability to render north of 40,000 videos a minute, which basically enables us to really take what we do to the next level. And really in North America, where we see a lot of there's bricks and mortar stores across North America in particular.
Yep.
We're able to really take advertising to the next level, and it's really a market is the holy grail of advertising, really, and that's super exciting for us.
Your chief financial officer told us that Shaker is going to provide 10 to 30% of Shuttle Rock's revenue. That's quite a big chunk.
And quite possibly even more over time. I think it's there is so much of a need, as I say, around the volume of content that is needed to be built, and I think brands are wanting to be a lot more bespoke in their messaging to audiences, and so this will enable us to really tailor make advertising to certain demographics and so forth, a lot more personalized, a lot more sticky. So yeah, that's very exciting.
A lot more sticky. What do you mean sticky? Is that just because it's aimed right at me because you've got the data on me? Or?
Yeah. Well, not so much the data. I mean, a lot more that build creative. That's a lot more that resonates with. Resonate, probably the better word. But yeah, resonates with those various demographics.
Jonny Hendriksen is a serial entrepreneur. Kiwis probably don't know much about him because in the 1990s he went to Japan to work in hotels and ended up making a fortune in the emerging field of internet marketing. He and longtime business partner Tim Williams became the first foreigners to list a company on the Japanese stock exchange. Well, Hendriksen is now on the MBR list, which puts his wealth at over 200 million. Okay, look, this, if I can look back a little bit now, this is not your first rodeo. As you said earlier, 20 years in Japan, successful companies there. Have things changed? Have you had to do things differently this time around with Shuttle Rock than what you did in Japan? Is it just because of the technology's changed, or has your approach changed?
Yeah, look, as I said earlier, I think really, building a sizable business from New Zealand. We are a long way from the rest of the world. I guess having a business in Tokyo, you do have the luxury of a very, at the time, the world's second largest economy right there at your doorstep. So in some ways now, I sort of look at it, as a luxury, really. You have so much, it's a much bigger opportunity. I think doing it from New Zealand, New Zealand is great. We're a very innovative country. We've got a lot of fantastic businesses here. The biggest challenge, though, is how do we take these businesses and scale them to the world? And look, I mean, I think, one thing that, I'm proud of, Shuttle Rock and the work that we do is that we, 99% of our revenue we're generating in foreign currency into New Zealand. And for me, probably the biggest challenge has been cracking the US market.
Yep.
50% of our revenue comes from the US, about 25% comes from Europe, and 25% from APAC. New Zealand, I'd have to say, is probably one of the most innovative, founder, entrepreneur friendly, countries on the planet. But probably the downside is we're the furthest away from all of the major sort of economy markets. And so there lies a big challenge. Yeah.
As you've been successful over the years, you've talked about, I guess, a way of giving back, and Shuttle Rock is now part of the Pledge 1% movement. Can you explain to me, what do you have to do to meet that 1% obligation?
Well, you have to be able to give, I think 1% of your revenue or 1% of your, I think, believe you 1% of your product or 1% of your profit. I think is the thing there. And we, we're really proud of, being able to be part of, be part of that initiative. And, we support organizations, all over the world with being able to produce 1% of our product goes to non-for-profits. And it's be able to do that. I mean, we're helping, everywhere from sort of, United Nations right through to sort of a very, smaller charities that we vet right across the world.
Okay, so you're helping out with their sort of social content or their media drives, whatever like that.
Totally. Well, one of the biggest problems that non-for-profits have is actually awareness and getting. For them, it's about, often fundraising, raising awareness and so forth. So we're in a pretty unique position where we can be of assistance in that area. And so what we do is we pick a number of, they go through a vetting process, and, it's not really to do with size or fame or there. We just want to make sure that they're legitimate, good causes. And, we back several of them a year. No, it's great to be able to be in a position where we can help.
Shuttle Rock and Jonny Hendriksen may be heading for a $100 million turnover and doing deals with major brands.
BMW wanted to build creative that would stand out from the sea of sameness in vehicle launches.
And integrating artificial intelligence.
Harness the transformative power of generative AI to scale your creative for all your digital needs.
But local recognition has been relatively light. Until now, Hendriksen is up for Entrepreneur of the Year, having won the subcategory of Master Entrepreneur. That's a new phrase for me. Is that like the Masters game section of being in startups?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's more for established. I'd like to think I'm still young at heart and so forth. I think there's definitely the young entrepreneur, and I think there's the
let's call it established. Yeah, let's call it established.
Yeah, I think it's more the established. A few of my friends are sort of starting to, trying to find some way to sort of give me a new name there on that front. But it's no, look, it's an absolute honour, and look, I haven't really won much in my life, so it's actually quite nice to have the recognition over the, and to be nominated, and it's to be part of such an amazing bunch of people and win that was a real honour. Yeah.
I guess I want to know then, what are the qualities from your point of view that actually makes an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I mean, it's actually been quite interesting to sort of reflect on it. I think it is really around that, I think perseverance and patience and really, I think you have to be tough, I think, to do it, because it's certainly a lot of ups and downs, and I think unless you have a strong purpose in mind or strongly there, I think it'd be quite difficult to become an entrepreneur, really. I think because every time you hit turmoil or something difficult, you'd probably tend to want to. It's certainly, I think, far easier to go and work for someone.
Right. So you've got to have that purpose. You've got to be driven to get past many roadblocks, I'm guessing.
I think so. Yeah, I think those would be and I think too. I think is having an abundance of compassion as well. I think you're dealing with. You've got to, I think the difference is between an owner operator to be able to go become an entrepreneur and take on, you've actually got to, take these wonderful people on this journey with you. So we're always I always feel very blessed that, to build a big organization or to build this, you've got to really build a team and take all these people on the journey. And I think at the end of the day too is that, the success really comes from hiring people who are a lot smarter than you. And I'm surrounded by, everyone I'm surrounded by is definitely a lot smarter than I am. And I think that's, it takes.
Do you have trouble delegating?
I've got better at it, but I think the more you start to get people who are smarter than you and are better at what they than you are in certain areas, then it certainly makes it easier not to delegate, because really it's like they're going to do a better job than you anyway. So I think it'd be very disrespectful to sort of take on their job, or pretend that you can do their job better than what they can. So, but yeah, you do. There is an element of hoarding going on where it's like, you want.
Just before we go, you were first very successful in Japan, as you said, spent 20 years up there, listed on the stock exchange. Is that your plan with Shuttle Rock, a listing somewhere? Or I guess I want to know, do you have the hunger to do this again once you're done with Shuttle Rock?
I don't know. I mean, I've promised my wife this is the last one. And look, I enjoy, I love what I do. And it takes a huge amount of energy to get a company to where it is there. So I don't know whether I have the energy or the desire to do it again. But look, at the end of the day, I think Shuttle Rock, we're just getting started. I know we're 13 years in, and look, at the end of the day, I'm having a lot of fun at the moment, and I think where does it go from here is really exciting. I mean, I think over the next 5 to 10 years to see where this company goes is quite exciting. And look, we're going into a market which is a total addressable market, is one of the biggest total addressable markets that any New Zealand company has ever gone into, which is the total global ad market. So so yeah, I mean, I'm really just focused on how good a job we can do today and tomorrow, and we'll let the score take care of itself.
And that wraps up this episode of the MBR podcast. Audio links used are in the description, thanks to content producer Jake Latham and creative director Michael Hickmott. For early access to the latest pods and comprehensive business news, subscribe at mbr.co.nz. Our next episode asks, is your Kiwi saver being aggressive enough? I'm Simon Shepherd. We'll catch you then.